Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, depending when you are. Yes, it's breakfast time, even though it for me is 8 p.m., 8:30 p.m. Central European time. But well, our guest from today, she is having a breakfast time. Yes, she is in the Pacific time, so the other part of the ocean, and we will be glad to chat with her. So we will see. Is chat with Yvonne. I'm wondering what it's all about with her. If you have any questions, please just let us know. And let me see if I can see. Hola, Irma. Hola, and I can see that Yvonne is already connected. So Yvonne, oh yes, let me see. 1 second. It's good afternoon and good morning. Hello, Yvonne. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So thank you very much. And well,
Yeah, thank
it's
you for having
actually
me. I had
the
breakfast
first time that we are
already. I'm drinking my second cup of coffee, by the way.
wow. Here, my also
Cheers.
well, not a coffee because almost it's quite late here, and then I will not sleep. But
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you are joining, and really happy to see you around with us. Yvonne, it's the first time that actually we are talking, and I'm very glad that we had this opportunity. And well,
Yeah,
of
too.
course, as every guest, I always start with this to make kind of introduction. Who is Yvonne Armenta? Can you tell us more about her?
Yeah, let's do it. These are always hard because there's so many aspects of who we are, right? But I'll try to pinpoint a couple of them. I'm Yvonne. I'm originally from the Bay Area. My parents are from Mexico. My dad is from Mexico DF, and my mom is from Guanajuato. And I've lived in the Bay Area my entire life, pretty much born and raised in San Francisco, which is California, for if there's anybody that isn't familiar with it. I went to college at UC Berkeley, and I majored in media studies and what was then called Native American studies, and I got an education minor. So all those things, somehow I managed to put all the things that I really like into a couple of different degrees there. And I'm currently pursuing my master's at San Jose State. Actually, will be done in like 2 months by the end of the summer. I'm the eldest of 3 siblings, so I always like to point to that. I think that's an important part of who I am, and I'm so happy to be here. What you will see is Chats with Yvonne is a platform that I'm using to spread my love for public speaking. I really think that public speaking is the way that we can all really showcase and talk about our passions and get other people to really connect with what we're passionate about as well. So I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
What a wonderful introduction, Yvonne. Appreciate it. And well, actually, I can see that really nice accent. And so I assume also you speak Spanish, right?
I do,
As
yeah.
well?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So my friends, if you have any questions, si ustedes tienen preguntas, por favor, háganoslas saber. We are talking about public speaking, hablar en público. Entonces, yes, it's all on that. And well, once again, thank you very much for introducing yourself. Yvonne, it's really nice story. I'm also actually origin from very close city of Guanajuato. It's Querétaro, so it's very close from there.
Okay, my family's from Tarimoro, so close to Celaya.
Yes, Celaya, yes, of course. Whoa, what a nice surprise. And well, as well, I'm already actually here in Poland for 7 years, more or less. So
nice. That's so interesting. Cool. That's awesome.
Quite thing, but it's really nice to have you. And something that actually, because I saw your Instagram account. What an Instagram account you have! You are really nice. It catch my attention a lot. You have that, I don't know, some special spark or something when you are doing those videos, reels, and so on. It's like, wow.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
I'm wondering.
It's nice to know that I'm not just doing it and look crazy doing them.
Actually, I'm wondering a lot of things that I would like to ask you. And well, but let's go for part by part. First of all, well, as you already were mentioning, you were saying something about yourself, who is Yvonne Armenta. But when checking your Instagram account, I can see guiding you to reflect connect, and share. My public speaking tips for keeping it real, IGTV series, A Chat With, and also podcast Ponte Perra and Affirmation Podcast. What a nice projects you have, and I'm wondering all about them. So, what is with all this public speaking, Yvonne?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things there, right, in my bio. And the reason for that, I know a lot of people sometimes may look at it and be like, wow, that's a lot. Maybe that's too much. But I think that the human experience is probably too much. So that's why I think, the correlations between we shouldn't stick to just one thing. We should explore various options. And so what you started off with, as far as me guiding you to reflect, connect, and share, that's my framework for really mastering and getting to a place in your public speaking journey where you feel comfortable. A lot of what I have done throughout my entire public speaking journey is exactly that. I think that that's my secret sauce for getting you to a place where you just feel so confident in who you are and what you do that, yes, there are formal techniques for being a great public speaker, but when you can show up to a room having reflected on your experiences and your journey and the way that you want to show up in the world, and you're able to make connections with how you've experienced things and maybe how others will perceive what you're experiencing, and then sharing that, when you're able to do all those three things and keep doing them in a cycle, you'll be an incredible public speaker all the time. And the guiding you towards, in my public speaking tips for keeping it real, a lot of the times when we think about public speaking, we think that it has to be, and we have to show up in a way that's different than who we truly are, right? We think I have to maintain incredible eye contact. I shouldn't move too much. I maybe should just stand right here and stay still, or I have to use specific words that maybe aren't part of my everyday vocabulary. And so what public speaking sometimes traditionally asks us to do is to deviate a little bit away from who we are in our everyday lives. And so I want to kind of break that narrative and say, no, you engage in public speaking every day, and what will make you an incredible public speaker and somebody that people can truly connect with is when you show up as yourself. And showing up as yourself is hard, but we try to do that every day with the tips that I provide. And then I have two other things, which is the IGTV series that I have, and again, trying to humanize the public speaking experience, where my form of public speaking is very different than yours, right? It's very different than the next person, but we all have this journey, and I want to, through that IGTV series, identify the things that everyday people kind of engage in as far as public speaking. You do it at your job, you do it when you talk to your friends, right? It's this act of engaging in the spoken word. And so as much as I can humanize that experience and say, hey, you're kind of fearful of it, or you're as scared of saying one too many times, so is this person who does it every day for their job, or so is this person who maybe is just beginning their journey in public speaking. So I try to talk to a variety of people. It's not just speakers, it's designers, it's people that are just starting their college journeys, small business owners, people that engage in public speaking all the time that we can connect with, because my hope is that you connect with at least one of the people that you see there and you're inspired. And then the last thing, I'm talking a lot, but the last thing is the Ponte Perra Affirmations podcast. And it has to do with this reflection piece of my framework for public speaking. Ponte Perra, to me, the literal translation is always hard, but just imagine an affirmation that you tell yourself, right? Like, just do it, or you've got this, Yvonne, or something like that. Ponte Perra is that affirmation for me. And I think that affirmations have really helped me and inspired me throughout my public speaking journey. It's sort of like a mindfulness trick, you do right before you are about to speak or anything like that. And I wanted to start an affirmations podcast because a lot of the things that I had seen people struggle with as far as public speaking is, I'm scared, I'm afraid that I don't fit in here, I don't even know if people want to hear to what I have to say. And what that came down to was this confidence builder, right? We have to have something that builds our confidence, that lets us know, hey, we have a story and there's nobody else in this entire world that can say it just in the same way that I can. And so the Affirmations podcast is hopefully doing that for folks. I have 2 episodes out, and one is an affirmation, so you kind of just recite something, and then the other part of it is the reflection piece. So you can say a lot of things, o sea, puedes decir eso todo el día, but if you don't internalize it and you don't take time to actually sit down and think about it, it maybe not have long-lasting effects. So that's the idea behind my Affirmations podcast. And I talked a lot, so I'll hand it.
It's okay. Well, actually, it's really nice, and I'm very actually, I can see that you are very fluid on it. And yes, very, very glad to hear all this. But actually, yes, I wanted to ask you, because I was hearing those podcasts, the Ponte Perra, and I was imagining another type of podcast, right? And then when I hear it, it was something more like, even for me, meditation. To hear it, that voice, very calm, and with some even emotions that is getting, because you are getting that information, and suddenly it's like, wow, it changed my mind, and that's why I wanted to say how it came that name, and then the relation in it. It is very interesting, and very glad to hear it.
Yeah, no, thank you. And that's the point behind the Affirmations podcast, right? Is I myself have been listening to affirmations before, and sometimes I'll put some random thing on YouTube, or I have a Spotify affirmations podcast that I listen to, and for one reason or the other, there were certain things that I could connect with, but other things that maybe I couldn't. And I wanted to find something and provide something that pinpointed exactly what I was feeling and what I know to be true for other people and what they feel. And I think that a huge part of getting comfortable with public speaking is mindfulness and meditation, right? Some people call it mindfulness, some people call it breathing, whatever that is for you. Sitting down and breathing, which I do all the time. You know, I mean, we all breathe all the time, but intentionally breathing, or intentionally sitting down and saying, affirming yourself in your greatness, I think is the best thing that you can do for your public speaking, right? Because as I said, you can know the basics, you can know and understand the ways that you should be public speaking and what you should do to captivate an audience. But if you're not really feeling it inside, that's going to shine through. And I think that's one of the most important things about being a great public speaker.
Indeed. And something that you were mentioning, and we will go through it because I have a lot of questions, but I've been seeing it. And one important thing is confidence. Confidence, once that actually you break that one, then the things are coming by their own, like and it's happy to be, for example, in this case, now to do this live, it was a challenge for me to do it in the past. Now it's like, okay, take the camera to that, because I'm not afraid anymore, and that feels that confidence. That is one important thing that you mentioned, for sure.
Yes, confidence is a huge thing. And what the other thing that you just mentioned within that sentence is practice, right? If you don't start something and just do it, the first time it may be a great experience, but it may also be a horrible experience. You're like, wow, I could have done something so much better there. But as you keep going and growing, that's the entire part of, reflecting, connecting, and sharing. Is you just did it once, you reflect on how you did there, you're like, I didn't really like it, and then you keep doing it and you get better at it.
But actually, now that you mentioned, because I remember it, and I was sharing it in my stories about that remix that you made with Este Macho. It was like amazing,
and everyone's like, oh man, it's such a basic concept, right? It's to just practice, but really thinking about it. In my experience growing up, or when I was in college, again, it's because we're in uncomfortable situations, right? So how can we try to make ourselves comfortable? It's all about that too. But I was in classes, and before I would raise my hand, or before I was getting ready to say something, I actually would think about it for about maybe 5 minutes straight, and my heart would pound. And then I did it the first time, and I did it the second time, and it would still pound a little bit. I would still get nervous to say something in front of the class. But as I got more comfortable doing it, it just became part of what I knew I needed to do to be, to participate in class and learn and, gain knowledge.
And Yvonne, I was also wondering, because I see several quotes in your Instagram account, and several of them I see always chat of Yvonne. Those quotes are either that you were thinking about them, or quotes that you take from your chat with. How is it all about? For example, I have, that is something that you mentioned, but because it was from that chat with Nancy Marmolejo, that you have the last one, right, with her.
Yeah.
Quote from Nancy Marmolejo: "The mindset component is huge and something we never stop working on."
Yes. So yes, I do. Some of the quotes that come from chats with Yvonne are literally, I'll just be sitting there. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about this right now. Let me create it. Others are, part of being a great public speaker is taking bits and pieces of what other people do and adapting it to who you want to be, right? So if I really like your energy and the way that you're asking questions, maybe I can adopt a little bit of that for the next time that I do an interview, right? Because it's making me feel great, and it may make my audience feel great. And so that, yes, the quotes that come from that are typically either my own or, I'll always credit the person that says the quote. But the reason I have them on there is because this should be a conversation between everybody all the time, right? And that specific quote, yes, we never stop working on the mind. I mean, is there anything that we can ever really stop working on? We always have to be growing and learning, which is why I like to associate the public speaking journey with just living, right? Like every day we kind of may not know what we're talking about, what we're doing, how we should be doing it, but every day we get up and we go and do things and we get them done. Same thing with public speaking is we may not even know how to start. We may not know how to talk to people, but every day we try to get better at it, and the mistakes happen along the way, and that's totally fine because you get back up and you do it all over again.
I praise that for sure. Always mistakes will happen, so that's why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not? And well, Yvonne, yes. So before going to the things also that I wanted, I have a very question. It's intriguing to me because it's all about public speaking that you have, right? However, and actually, I went through you via the account that we are having in Toastmaster. So I assume Toastmaster for you is something that you have heard, right?
Yes.
Question for you. Are you a Toastmaster?
I'm not, but you know what? I'm like, I should be looking into it because a lot of my, or I want to do it. A lot of my public speaking experience comes from it being firsthand, right? Like I started off in high school where I had to do these things as part of my curriculum. And then I went on to being a keynote speaker, and I was like, wow, I really like this. And so a lot of my public speaking experience comes from actually doing, right? And going out and experiencing it, just going up on stage in front of 5,000 people and just talking, right? And realizing this is what I really like. I like doing this. And so that has transferred over to what I actually do as my job, right? I'm in communications, and I do all of our communications as far as the company goes. I host our company-wide meetings. And so I've hosted external live chats for folks for my company. And so I was actually looking at that. I was like, oh, I need to become a Toastmaster.
Well, you are always glad as this club that we are having that actually we got through you. Feel invited. We are meeting every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central European time. Just a small app about it, but yeah. And okay, because yes, I mean, I'm very, it's very, how can I say? I'm surprised that you are not Toastmaster, but you are very interested in the public speaking part. It's, it's the first time I know a person that is not Toastmaster that's interested in public speaking. That's why I'm a bit surprised, and that's why I wanted to ask you about. So as you mentioned, so you are already doing keynote speeches for a lot of audience. Also, you are doing it online. You have been doing it pre-pandemic. How can you tell us more about it?
Yes, yeah. So my first ever big, I would say, and big to me is 1,000 people. That was like, whoa, because I was used to doing it in high school as part of our curriculum. And so what that looked like was a little bit more smaller scale, where it was, I present my work and why I should pass on to the next grade to my teachers and peers. So it was intimidating, but I realized that I just liked it. And I love talking too. And I also love listening to other people talk. And so that's sort of where it started. And then the teaching channel actually came to our school. And the teaching channel, I don't even know if that's a global company or not, but they here in the US at least, they came to our school. They filmed our what were called portfolio defenses, and my story was highlighted there. And that was the very beginning of me actually doing that reflection piece that I talk about, is looking at myself and be like, oh my gosh, is that what I sound like when I'm presenting? And so that was really crazy. But because of that initial contact with the teaching channel, I then went on to be a keynote speaker at a couple different conferences for education and project-based learning, which is this idea that in schools, maybe a test isn't the best way to measure knowledge or measure retention of knowledge. Maybe people actually need to talk about what they're learning and how they're learning so that we can determine, yes, they know exactly what they're talking about, right? And you've heard this before, where someone will say, if you can't explain it simply, you just probably don't know it as well as you should, right? And so I went to different conferences talking about my experiences with that specific curriculum and how it impacted me. And what I realized, the first one that I did was about 1,000 people. Then the next keynote was 5,000 people. And then the last one I think was maybe like 500 or 600 people. But what I realized was that I got so nervous all the freaking time. Every single time I went up on stage, I was so nervous. And I think the very first one that I did, and they're on YouTube, so you can all check them out. Don't be too harsh, because again, I just started. But I could hear my voice shake a little bit. And so, but once I got comfortable after getting off of stage, I've always felt so good about what I had just delivered and talked about, and confident in my voice, but in what I knew to be true and how I presented to people, right? And so that's that piece that inspired me to say, hey, in the same way that a lot of people may feel about the work that they do, they feel confident, they feel re-inspired, they feel just motivated to keep doing more every time they do something of it. That's how I feel about public speaking, is every time I do something, I get crazy nervous. But then the end result is, wow, you just were able to connect with people and connect people through the spoken word and through public speaking and the story that you have and the knowledge that you have. Imagine and this was one person in a room full of 1,000 people, right? Imagine it being so many other people that can impact other rooms filled with thousands of people, right? And so that's why I started, and why I'm so focused on public speaking, because I think there's incredible power in the act of engaging with people through the spoken word in that way. And then, as I mentioned in my job, I began hosting our events, right? When the pandemic hit and we became virtual, there was more of a virtual interaction. So that was in and of itself a transition. But I had the opportunity to interview celebrities at work, right? For our for Good Talks, that's what it's called. Good Talks Healthline, if anyone wants to check it out. But it's still up, the recordings. But that was fun. And I just realized every time, I just really like this. And so I myself take the time too to also keep up and say, okay, what is new in public speaking? And you'll find that most of it is, just basic kind of foundational knowledge, but it's the way that you interpret it and the way that you use it to show up in how you speak that I think is I love it. I love everything about it. And so I just want everyone else to be as excited as I am about public speaking.
And for example, I also wondering, because something that is at least happened to me since I'm in Poland, I'm getting used to a lot of English, and I got into Toastmaster in a English speaking club. So every presentation when I'm doing, actually I feel more comfortable when I'm doing it in English. Then I try it in Spanish, and there is something I don't know. I don't know if my brain crashed with both languages and something is happening. I don't know if you have the same thing. How is your public speaking in Spanish?
Yeah, that happens to me, and I think I have done no official research on this, right? But I think what happens for me is in English, we are used to, or at least I'm used to having interactions in English as well. And you almost recognize and start to use the buzzwords that other people will recognize. And that's how you connect, right? And unfortunately, I have lost practice with public speaking in Spanish, right? And because of that, now I'm like, what are the words that I should use to connect? What is the literal translation of awesome in Spanish, right? So I totally understand what you're saying. And actually, public speaking for me in Spanish is a little bit more difficult because my Spanish is very conversational with my family, right?
Okay.
If I can't remember a certain word in English, like the translation, I could take my time, like, how do you say, and just say it in English, and I end up saying it in English. You can't do that necessarily. It's not effective, right? Though I like to say that public speaking can be very conversational depending on your personal style and how you would adopt to it, right? But again, it goes back to, you probably just have to engage in more conversations and maybe read some more in Spanish. I have to read a lot more in Spanish because I think that's how I can give a presentation in Spanish on something that I don't know, like coffee, something that I really love, but maybe something a little bit more academic, you could call it, or something.
Okay, yes.
I have to do a lot more research. And so that's part of the public speaking journey, right? Is do your research, figure out what you want to say, how you want to say it. And by the time you end up doing the public speaking engagement, you're a little bit more prepared. And the random things will show up where you're like, oh gosh, I forgot how to say this in Spanish. So
I have it a lot. So thanks for also tackling that point, because I wanted also to ask you how is on that part, because I'm struggling and I wanted to ask how you manage those points. But so I assume it's normal. So I'm kind of normal, right?
Oh no, 100% you're normal. Yeah, it is very different. It's funny you mentioned that, because one time, so at my high school, again, I'll keep going back to this one, but when we did exhibitions, so we would present our projects, it was graded, but it was for, our teachers would come by. It was like an exhibition and folks would come by and ask you questions. And a lot of the families in my school spoke Spanish, and that was all they spoke, but they came to our exhibitions. And so the content that they were looking at was in English. But I had to, a family, a mom and a dad would come, and, my friend's parents would come and ask me about my project, and I had to tell them about it in Spanish. And it was a weird transition because I was used to talking about it in English. I was like, I know exactly what to tell you in English. But then in Spanish, I was like, oh, how do you say revolution? How do you say war? Like, how do you, is it is it 1795 or 1695? How do you say, o sea, es 66 or 76, things like that would come up for me. And I was like, wow, I really need to practice this. And they understood. They were like, it's fine, because, you're learning and you're actively engaging in this content in English. So how can we transfer that over to how we, present in Spanish? You really have to invest the time to kind of dive into all of that.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much once again for tackling the point. And well, we will continue with the questions that I have here. Okay, because also I was checking several of the quotes that you are having. Sorry. And I wanted to ask, okay, one, no one is born a great public speaker. You develop your voice and aesthetic over time. Mm-hmm. How you can say about it?
Yes. So that is one of the things, a lot of times people say, oh, whether it's about me or whether it's about someone that they really admire for being a public speaker, they were born like that. They have a natural kind of charisma to them. They have a natural way of speaking that is just, I can't be like that, right? And the point is, you shouldn't be like that, right? I think that when we talk about authenticity, no one is born a great public speaker. They develop over time, meaning they grab a little bit from here, they grab a little bit from there, and you develop who you are as a public speaker during that time. Is I really like the way they spoke. I really liked the way they showed up. I liked the way they dressed, right? I liked that blazer. I liked whatever. So you develop those things, and that creates who you are, your aesthetic, right? And so with that, it was just about really pointing to the fact that no one is born being no one came out the womb being like, hey, I'm a great public speaker, right? You develop all of those things through experiences, through, different perspectives that you gather. And so at the end, because there really ever isn't an end, you always learn more. You develop who you want to be and how you want to show up. If you're a little bit more of a person that's like, I want to show up with a blazer, give you the facts, and that's my form of public speaking, great. If you want to say, hey, I'm a little bit more chill, maybe I'll show up with a hoodie, but maybe not, but like what I will say will inspire you, right? And so that's what that quote is signifying.
Do you think also then, before I go in, but because then it is connected to another quote that you are having, this same point is, you are not a public speaker like them, you are a public speaker like you. So at the end we can match that, those both quotes, right?
Yes, they are 100% together. And what I also hope is that those quotes are sort of, you can connect to those, and even not at a public speaking level, just in life, right? You show up, you contribute to a classroom, you contribute to the meeting at your job, you contribute to your community in a way that only you know how to do, because you have that experience, right? You can't do it in the same way there's no way that you can do it in the same way that someone else does it. There may be similarities, but what makes it so unique is that you yourself have this special way of saying something, of doing something that will make people connect with it. And I think that's what's so powerful about being on a public speaking journey, is you could just be who you want to. Truly, you can be who you want to be.
Something that, of course, that part, but I also heard from trainings, quotes, conferences related to personal branding, right? And then, for example, now in this case, always that is why you are with the same T-shirt. You don't wash it. It's like what is going on with that, and so on. It's not dirty. I'm trying to clean it every time.
It. Yeah.
It's just to have it that the people can say, okay, oh, that is breakfast time, so it's related to that specific shirt with this specific thing here, and is the idea behind that part. So I'm trying to develop from that perspective my style with this, and showing that they can identify in a way, oh, it's the guy with this sailor shirt. Okay, so breakfast time or something like that. But
yeah, and I love that. I love that because it is really a signifier of what you're doing, and people can easily recognize it.
I just wanted to make some quick parenthesis on that, because once it's the same T-shirt.
You're so, like, by the way, I washed it. Don't worry. That's funny.
But yeah, okay. And well, another quote. When I got over my fear of public speaking, people start seeing me for me.
And that is one of my favorite quotes that I've put out there before. And it's because, when we show up to things, when we show up as a public speaker, when we show up to, again, I keep going back to the classroom because that's my immediate connection right now. But the classroom, when you go to meetings and you are afraid and you're just like, you freak out, you're not showing who you truly are, because the reason maybe that there is fear is because you fear that you have to be something that you're not, right? And so I go back to what I said before, whereas when public speaking, we feel that it asks us to be different than who we normally show up as in the world, right? And so if we really want to practice authenticity in that way, it's actually just, let's slowly peel away from that fear. So what that means is, when I get rid of the fear, when I'm able to just say, you know what, even if I make a mistake, even if I stutter, even if this happens, even if I look over too many times or move my hands too much, it's okay. Let me get over the fear of doing it and just get to it. Then it goes back to, you'll start to feel more comfortable with it. The more you practice it, you'll feel better about it. And so then, because you'll feel more comfortable and confident in how you show up, you'll actually start to show up as who you actually want to be. And so that's what that quote means.
Thank you very much. It's really nice quote. So I wanted to hear about it. We can see Sonu Kumar. Hello from India. Hello to India, my friend.
Hi.
And okay, so again, my dear friends, if you have questions to Yvonne, please throw it out in the chat. We will be really glad to hear them and to answer them. So please go on the chat and write your questions. Okay, and then yes. Two dogs. Is it connected with Ponte Perra? The two dogs that you have?
That just happened to be a coincidence. So Ponte Perra, which I call my affirmation, it's literally what I say to myself all the time. I think maybe some of us have heard Ponte Pilas, but
Ponte las pilas.
It really started settling for me in college. So my roommate and I, all the time, when we would get nervous, or when we felt that, we had an interviewer or someone, or, whatever it was, we're like, you know what, Yvonne, tú ponte perra and just go do it, right? Or I tell my friend, Ashley, dude, ponte perra, like, that's it. Ask for what you need, get what you need, do that. And so that's just a coincidence that I have two dogs, and one of them is female, the other one is a male, but the two dogs is a coincidence. But the Ponte Perra is something that I've been just actually saying to myself for years, and it's really been a way that I affirm myself whenever I'm feeling a little nervous or not as confident as I would want to feel.
Here we have a question, actually. But okay, so we will go on with that. When do you know when you're talking too much, either at a meeting or in any scenario?
Yeah. Hi, Angelica. I typically, one of the first signifiers is, oh my gosh, I'm running out of breath. Maybe I should chill out,
okay.
Take a breath and not talk as much. But I think when you are engaging in conversation and you find that maybe you're taking up, let's say you have an hour meeting, right? And talked for 20 minutes of that time. And the point of the meeting is to say, hey, let's all come together and chat about what we should be doing. That's when, you can recognize when you're maybe taking up too much space. So really it's identifying how much time do I actually have, or how much time do we collectively have in this meeting or whatever it is. And what is the objective of the meeting? If the objective of the meeting is, hey, I'm actually, as the boss, as the manager, or as strategy builder, I'm going to let you all know how we're going to execute, right? It really has to do with what you're actually saying to people. Then maybe you can take up a little bit more time. But if the objective and the point of the meeting is to come out with a collective knowledge or collective strategy that you all come up with together and is more collaborative, then maybe, say your points in 5 minutes or less and see how other people react to it. Give time people to react to what you're saying. I hope that answered it a little bit.
I hope that we answered that, Ancon. So please thank you very much for that question. And Yvonne, but indeed, something that you were talking, and now, because I remember this question that I have. So then, how to prepare to host a virtual meeting? Because you have actually even a reel for that, when showing, pointing, email. It was really also very nice, by the way. So can you develop on that? How to prepare to host a virtual host meeting?
Yes. So first of all, there's only so much I can put in the reel, right? Without it being like, wait, what does that one say? What did that say? Because they show up so fast, right? But the reason I wanted to put that one out there is because we are in a virtual world, right? We're now probably more connected than ever through a video. And so a couple of the things that I do when I host company-wide meetings is one, I will go ahead and say, okay, what are my transitions? How can I make sure, I know the topic so well. I'm the one hosting the meeting, so I know who's presenting. I know the agenda. So how will I make sure that my transitions are on point? Just because I feel that allows for a good flow. So one is making sure that your transitions are well put together, whether that is the slide template, whether if you're sharing screen, or whether it's just me talking and saying something about what we just heard about. My next point will be, and then transitioning it out. So memorizing those things really helps. Making sure that if the meeting needs to be recorded, that you're recording it right from the beginning, because it's happened to me where I forgot to record. I was like, no, this was such a great meeting. Why did I do that? And really is prior to anything is connecting with the presenters and making sure that everybody understands the transitions. It's like event planning, right? It's an event logistics. And obviously the other thing that comes with it is, what is your, if this is an official meeting, what does your lighting look like? I remember at one point I had put something in my story, and I don't think I have it on my grid, but in my story, I gave myself feedback, right? Where I was in a meeting, I took a screenshot of where we were in the meeting, and my coworker was at this level, and I think I was either looking up, so my camera was at a weird angle. I was either looking up or I was looking down. I just wasn't at the same angle. And so that creates a sort of, we should be all on the same plane, more visual looking like that, but making sure that you're at the same level as your co-presenter or co-worker in that way. So I hope that answers it a little bit, but yeah, it's pretty much preparing as much as you can. Technology, unfortunately, sometimes is not in our favor. So
very, very nice answer. And actually, by the way, yes, totally agree with those things that you're saying. So thank you very much. Even those kind of details that to put the camera in the same level, they can take some. Totally agree. So thanks for sharing it. So we are getting almost to the finish, but we always do some kind of game with all our guests, and I would like to try it with you. Is associations. I just mentioned one word, and you say the first time that it came to your mind.
Okay, let's see how I do.
We don't need explanation about it. It's only the first word, but it's the association game, that dynamic that I have all the time. So, energized.
Public speaking.
Grateful.
Nature, hikes.
Sincere.
Conversations, like our conversation right now.
Connected.
Affirmations.
Confidence.
Public speaking.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it for answering that game. It's just a small question. I try it all the time, so thank you very much for participating on it. And well, Yvonne, actually this Breakfast Time Live started because I start to share recipes. Due to the pandemic, I try to cook in myself, then I noticed, well, it's kind of, I like it. It's really, really nice. And then I mix it with public speaking and all the things, and I said, okay, why not? Let's go to share something. I was trying some Mexican food here and breakfast. I said, let's why not? And obviously, then I need to ask you about your favorite breakfast or some breakfast that you can recommend us.
It's funny because you'll find that I'm very basic as far as breakfast. So when you said breakfast, I immediately thought like eggs and bacon, but my favorite breakfast is chilaquiles.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So do you, the spicy food? Yes, it's some...
I love spicy foods. I feel like food needs to have a bit of a spice for it to be food.
Yeah, exactly. No, all the time. And again, I needed to ask because at the end, the breakfast time is kind of connected with that. But the idea also behind this live Instagram is like simulate. We are taking the breakfast and some conversation and how are you? That like in a very nice environment and so on. So that is the idea of this Breakfast Time Live.
Yeah,
okay?
And I love it. I mean, thank you so much for having me on here. I think the idea of taking something so almost I mean, breakfast food in general is just something that connects people even more, right? So having something like that connected with important conversations and fun conversations in the way that you host them, I think is awesome.
How many episodes have you had already with Chat with Yvonne?
I believe there are 7 conversations actually that I've had.
Okay.
And you can always find those on my IGTV. So I like to provide different platforms for people to watch them. So if you head over to Instagram on Chats with Yvonne, you'll go to IGTV and you'll find all of our conversations there. But through the link in my bio, you can also just listen to them, because I know that some people like to listen versus watching a video. So they'll always be there. Same with the Ponte Perra Affirmations podcast. That'll be linked in my bio as well.
So the people can find all your podcast channels and social media platforms via your Instagram account, because I noticed you have this link, you enter, and then Linktree and all the social media, right? Okay.
Yes. So go to the link in my bio. You'll see Chats with Yvonne podcast and Ponte Perra Affirmations podcast there. And if you're at all interested and want to see how I even started my public speaking journey, I do have a couple of videos over towards the end of my now I would look at and say embarrassing public speaking engagements, but that's where I started off. And I think it's important to showcase that too.
So just to finalize, this again, the one that we were sharing about Ese Nacho Man. So if I ask the question, how to get better in public speaking?
Practice.
Yeah, exactly. You hear it, my friends. Practice, 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 practice. It's really a thing. So very glad, Yvonne, to talk to you. Appreciate it. Again, feel invited to this Toastmasters meeting, and let's keep in touch. We are in contact. Keep with the good work that you are having. Really nice Instagram account. Highly recommended, my friends.
Thank you.
The spark that you can see in there, amazing. So Yvonne, congratulations for it. Really nice. Nope. Okay, so bye and
Bye everyone.
see you.
Thank you.
Bye.